Honestly, this was so cute. Hey guys, welcome back. This month's Book of the Month Spoiler Talk winner was a romance. We have This Spells Love. Thank you to everyone who voted. December will be our last Spoiler Talk poll, so be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on voting. Now, This Spells Love is about a 28-year-old woman named Gemma who has recently been dumped by her long-term boyfriend. One night, there's a drunken spell that's performed and it erases her ex from her past, but in doing so, she also erases her best friend, Dax. The book then turns into a friends to lovers type book. However, Dax never knew about the friendship part. Before I dive into the spoilers, I do just want to say overall, I felt like this was a really nice, lighthearted read. If you look too closely to the book, you can definitely poke holes in it, but if you want something really light and fluffy, then this is perfect. I didn't find that there were any high-powered emotional scenes. Nothing felt to be very high stakes. So for me, during this month, that was really nice to read. It was nice to have something that was like low-key and not overwhelming. You know, sometimes it's just nice to have like a little palate cleanser between heavier books. So I really, really liked that about this one. It's a great palate cleanser. On the other hand, I do wish that there was a bit more character development for the characters in general in the book. Overall, they were all pretty basic, but that just kind of goes along with my thoughts of the book in general. It was a nice, fluffy, light read. So let's now get into the spoilers if you haven't read it yet. Obviously, I'm about to ruin everything for you, so. This book started out right away with us learning that the main character, Gemma, has been recently dumped by her boyfriend of 4 years. His name is Stuart. You don't really have to remember that. He doesn't really come up anymore. Gemma's sister, Kirsten, and her best friend, Dax, never loved Stuart and Gemma together, but Gemma was comfortable in the relationship due to her hectic childhood, so she really found comfort in Stuart's boring and monotonous ways. Right away, Dax immediately gives off he's in love with his best friend vibes. Of course, it's obvious to everyone but Gemma, and the book starts out with him even canceling a date with another woman to go over to Gemma's aunt's house with her and her sister. He's clearly in love. So while there, they perform this spell, and that's the main crux of the plot of the book. Gemma wishes to erase Stuart from her memory since she feels like she wasted 4 years of her life on him. The spell then needs a kiss to seal it. Dax and Gemma in the moment don't kiss, but then he helps her get home because she was very, very drunk. And she's like, wait, we didn't finish the spell. And they kiss for the first time ever in their 4-year friendship. Then that's the ending of anything that's like magical in the book. The spell keeps being brought up where it's like, oh, the spell brought me here. But it's not like witchy or anything like that. It's just like, we have this spell. It brings us to the next portion in the book. The spell, there's nothing else like magical about the book, if that makes sense. She transfers into an alternate universe where Stuart was never her boyfriend. They never met. And in this new universe, she also has never met Dax. So with her original universe, that ends Dax being in the book until the very end of the book. So I didn't love that because I wanted us to see Universe A, Dax, more throughout the book. I wanted us to be able to see them as friends and to be able to really see their dynamic and see how their connection really was, to see why we wanted to be rooting for them as a couple throughout the rest of the book. Throughout the rest of the book, Gemma keeps talking about how great their friendship was and everything, but us as the reader, we never really got to see much of that besides like a single scene-ish with them together in the beginning, and then suddenly we're thrust into this new universe. So the next morning after the spell, when Gemma wakes up, it's the classic like, oh shit, the spell actually worked and this is an alternate universe situation. So in this timeline, she obviously never met Stuart. She's never had a long-term boyfriend. Instead of living in the condo that she lives in her other universe, she lives in a basement level studio, and instead of her corporate job, she owns her own little small business of these like beauty products boutique-y thing. It's very cute. So before she fully realizes that she's in a different universe, she goes to the shoe store that Dax owns, which is the same in both universes, and she goes through the back door and she just walks in and just starts chatting with him about like because they know each other. But he is terrified, and because she knows so much about him, and she comes across as this like crazy stalker person. Like she knows about his mom and his sister and what his regular order is for coffee. And she brings all of this up in conversation. And so he is freaked out initially, but somehow this doesn't impact the relationship throughout the rest of the book. So he's able to overlook this very strange scene. And once Gemma realizes like what's happening, she leaves. Turns out that Gemma and Dax met the same night that she and Stuart met. So she and Dax first met at a bar, they exchanged numbers, but then he got a drink spilled on him. He went home to change. But by the time he got back, she was already being talked to by Stuart. Long story short, after several weeks, she was dating Stuart exclusively, but her and Dax had continued to talk, so he was basically friend-zoned. So naturally, because that night never happened because of the spell also took away the Dax friendship, because they never met. So after she leaves Dax's store, completely horrified, she goes to her aunt and sister, and she's like, we did a spell in my, can you imagine? We did a spell in my universe, and now everything's different. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But they play along, and they go to find the book, and they realize to reverse this spell, all they need to do is re-perform the spell basically the exact same way and just wish for things to go back. Everything has to be the same, so they have to wait a month for the moon to be the same. Also, in this month, Gemma has to figure out a way for this Dax in this universe who is horrified of her to kiss her to seal the spell. So good luck on her part because she made an awful first impression. But Gemma isn't a quitter. She just needs to become best friends with Dax again. So like a creepy stalker, she was a little weird in the beginning. I can't believe that like the author was just like, oh, Dax doesn't care eventually, whatever. It's Tuesday night, and she knows that Dax has a normal Tuesday night curling club. So she shows up and he's like freaked out by her, but she tries to play off her earlier interaction by being like, oh, I was having an off day. Don't worry about everything that I said in your store. Like, it's cool, but it's still awkward. And he clearly is like, you're weird, I don't want to be around you. Gemma has a strike of good luck because Dax's cousin on the team is also in this universe, and he is one of her boutique customers. So they strike up this conversation, and they establish that whenever one of their teammates, Sunny, is unable to make it, Gemma will fill in. And just like that, Gemma has one foot in the Dax door. So after a few days, Gemma actually surprisingly starts having some more success on the Dax front with trying to establish some sort of friendship with him. It happened very quickly. So they're shopping at this store together. Outside, she falls and he helps her get home. Classic, like, oh ma'am, are you okay type thing. Can I assist you home? I'm worried about you. It does feel very like convenient that he would just kind of ignore the fact that she was crazy in the beginning and was like, I know everything about you. And he suddenly goes to being like, oh, she's pretty cool. I see what the author was going for, where it's like, oh, it makes sense that they would click so much in their original universe and then that would transfer over to this universe because they were such good friends, we are told, in the other universe. But that didn't stop me for the entire rest of the book, just thinking about how weird Gemma was in their first interaction in this new universe. And it was just so weird to me that he basically completely forgets about this and then he's just smitten with her throughout the rest of the book. Like, it was very interesting that you're able to just sweep that under the rug and just kind of move on with really liking her. Throughout the rest of the book and this month that she has left in this timeline before she has the opportunity to go back, they start dating and they fall in love. It felt like the relationship was very insta-love, for Dax at least. This is a brand new person. Gemma's just been thrust into his life. He doesn't know her. They spend time together curling, and then they go to a party, and then they go to a bar, and then they just talk about how they don't want to be friends anymore, or just friends, and they want to give dating a shot, which felt very fast to me because I was like, are you guys even friends? But I suppose that is the point. If they wouldn't have been best friends in the other timeline and Stuart wasn't in the way, it seems obvious that this would have been the path that they would have taken in that timeline since they click really well together. And this book was thankfully spicy. We love that. There were a good amount of intimate scenes, but they were also spaced out nicely and they went along with the plot. I hate when books are like either like way too much or way too little. I did feel like it was just peppered in very naturally. Now, there are other things happening in the book besides the romance plot. So in this situation, the rest of the plot centers really around Gemma and Dax's careers. So their careers in these timelines are surprisingly very impacted by the loss of Stuart, which is so weird. So for Gemma in Universe A, who was in a relationship with Stuart, she has this good paying corporate job and she applied for this job through one of Stuart's connections. So without Stuart in the timeline, she was never told about the job, so she decided to take a risk and start her own small business. But her business is doing well in this timeline, and it turns out she loves running the business. So she even has someone approach her about doing this business partnership and setting up shop in some of their spas. So career-wise for Gemma in this timeline, she is so much happier than she was in the other universe. Dax, on the other hand, in the no Stuart universe, he's really struggling. So he has the same custom shoe store as in Universe A, but instead of that universe where things are going extremely well, in this universe, it's not. We have small glimpses throughout the book where Gemma sees that he's struggling financially, and this really confuses her because in the other universe, financially, he's doing very well. So in Universe B, he's behind on his apartment and storefront rents. His apartment isn't furnished the same way. He doesn't have health care. He has a car that keeps breaking down. He's definitely flustered. Then, really unfortunately, a few weeks into them dating, there's a fire in Dax's store that happens and his business is completely destroyed. And because he had lapsed in his insurance payments, he's completely screwed. So that's when Gemma realizes that in the Stuart universe, one of Stuart's friends had actually invested in Dax's business. He had his brick and mortar store, but then he also had a really successful e-store going along at the same time as the storefront. But in this universe, he could never afford to launch an e-store. And so his business kind of quickly started failing. So now Dax in B universe has to move in with his cousin. He gets a new job as a tax associate, and Gemma can tell that it's just soul sucking for him. Gemma decides that though this universe, Universe B, is arguably much better for her, she's, she has this great relationship with Dax, she loves her job, things are going great for Gemma. But she cares so much about Dax, and it's very apparent that it's not better for Dax in this universe, and she cannot bear the idea that he could be really happy and successful in the other universe versus how he is with his dreams currently just being crushed. So a month has passed in the book, and we are at the night of the right moon. So she does decide to do the spell again because she wants Dax to be happy because she's like, this universe sucks for him. She gets Dax drunk so that he doesn't really question why they're doing a spell. And then the next day she wakes up, but in her right universe, but things are still a bit different for her. So she wakes up in the same basement studio apartment, and she realizes that, of course, in Universe A, her life kept moving along the last month. It didn't just freeze. Like it's a month later, but she missed a whole month. So in the month that she was gone, she apparently decided to quit her job and start her small business. So she's gonna continue with that, and she also asks Kirsten to help her with marketing. So she's also going to help with Kirsten's dreams as well. As for Dax, apparently, during this whole month in this universe, he's just been straight up dodging Gemma because now things seem awkward because of their kiss on the spell night. So Gemma is devastated because she left Dax that she was in a relationship with in this other universe, and they were in love and things were so great. And then she goes back to this universe and she's like, oh great, the Gemma in this universe is losing Dax as a friend. Cool. But of course, they talk and it gets resolved. He says that he doesn't think that he can be friends with her anymore because he doesn't want to watch her with another Stuart, which makes sense. And they profess their love with each other and decide to give the relationship a shot in this universe. For the ending, while I think it was the right move to end the book with her going back to her original universe, I do think the ending wrapped up a bit too quickly. I do wish we would have gotten more time than just one chapter in an epilogue with the Dax that we went back to from the original universe. I just felt like since the two characters were from two separate universes and their lives were both so different, the two Daxes just felt like two completely different characters. It felt like a completely different guy than the guy from Universe B that she ended up falling in love with. I mean, yes, they are fundamentally the same person. They have a lot of the same qualities, things like that. But we, as the reader, didn't get to see her fall in love with original universe Dax. So it almost felt like she was going back to a different person. With that being said though, overall, I really did enjoy reading this book. It was a super quick, easy read, which I think every romance novel should be. It was feel good and I enjoyed watching the characters fall in love. I do feel like I've been reading a lot of novels lately about alternate universes and I've been pretty into it. So I really enjoyed this one. If you do have any more recommendations regarding that, be sure to send them my way. And that is it for me today, guys. As always, thanks so much for watching and spending your time with me. Be sure to let me know what you thought of this book in the comments below and we'll see you next time. Bye.